Hello everyone. Okay, this is Edward James Tagg, and I'd like to give a really simple lesson about what to do with a tree, a log, a log, and I'm ripping it and sawing it. Ripping means creating planks. But before I do that, I want to make sure that it's flat, and this is essentially what you do. So I've got a Milwaukee planer. This Milwaukee planer is what's the model? Just says 3¼ inch planer, Milwaukee. Probably got a model number in there somewhere. Yep. Anyway, so the good thing about this Milwaukee planer is it's really quiet. So not very noisy compared to other planers that I've used in the past. But what you're going to do first is you've got to check where to take material off. So what happens, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the tripod down to eye level so you can see what I've done here with these two spirit levels. And if I go right down low, you'll see that, I'm just locking it off here, you'll see that this area, this side here, is lower than this one back here, and you can see the difference. And that's called when they just used to use just two sticks, and they used to paint one black or with markings on it and paint another one white. And if they're like that, positioned on this log, it'll show you where it's out of winding. I think they call it out of winding. You can even see it from this height. Even from this height up here, you can see that this one's down and this one's up. So that means that here, I take some off this corner to take it down. So I'll do some of that now. You can see what's going on. Now that's taken down quite a lot, and to be honest, I should actually use some earmuffs. So let's see how much that's done already, and we can see if there's much difference. Now what I do when I'm doing this is I walk down the far end of my barn and I sight along to see the difference, and it's still kind of out. You can still see that it's kind of out. So what I'll do is I'll get my earmuffs. I'll have another go. I didn't have the cut aggressive enough, so I just turned the knob at the front. to make the cut deeper. So that should be doing something better. Let's have a look. I have to go down that end so I can sight. Just give me a minute. No, it's still out. It still needs chopping more on that corner. Now, why am I only doing this corner and not the opposite corner down there? It's because the tree that came out of the ground, this was in the ground, so that end's a little bit smaller diameter. So this is the chunkier part. So I've got more meat on this end than I do that end. I'll just check because I'm pretty sure I am, but I'll just check anyway. Yes, it's a lot meatier and chunkier this end. Have a look now. There's a bit of a hump just there. There's a bit of a high spot just there. So that's it's getting close to perfect. Well, it's getting there. So if you you don't want to see me planing all day because it's just I'm not talking and I'm just planing. So if I lower this camera down, that one there, and then this one here, to that level there. If you look at this line and you look at the one behind it, you almost can't see it, but you'll see they're not like that, they're not like that, they're straight. So that's what we wanted to achieve, which is good. So now that's just the two ends, okay? That's just this end and the other end. But we could also do this, couldn't we? We could do this. We could do halfway down, couldn't we? And by some really, really weird coincidence, in the middle now, compared to the back, it's actually perfect. They're actually dead level. So you've dealt with the ends, you've dealt with the middle, which in this case was just perfect by accident. And now what we have to do, we have to put those two aside, and we have to brush off all the shavings. And we have to see what's happening with the entire length this way. So I had a feeling that 1/3 along right here, there's a really big high spot, there's a hump here, because we took a lot off this corner, so we've created a hump just here. So that has to go down. And if I bring this over to this side, let's see what happens. No, there's not much of a hump at all. So what I do now is I go and get a crayon. Just a minute. These are this is called a paint stick. It's used by arborists and people who saw, with chainsaws. But Markel paint stick. So what I do is I just now I mark on the log the high points, and I mark them just like as a circle. So right here there's a big high spot, so I put a big circle on that here like this, like that. And on this side, what's going on here? There's a bit of a high spot that goes all the way length of here. And there's a high spot here. Check this other side again. There's a little bit of high spot just here. But this one's really, really high, so I draw on that more. And that shows me what I need to take down. So now, I'll just do this very briefly. Right, so this board should be getting pretty flat now. Excuse me for using the planer for as long as I have, but you've just seen the process and how to flatten out a board ready for ripping into boards. So now, let's say that board is perfect, and it's not because I'm going to go over it a number of times. Now I use what's called a grasshopper gauge. My father, Edward James Tagg, like me, Edward James Tagg, same name. We were E.J. Tagg and Son, wood carvers going back many generations. My father taught me how to design and make a grasshopper gauge, and a grasshopper gauge is usually used in hand railing, and when you've got a staircase coming down the stairs, you're following it, and this pencil is such a distance away from that plate, and you draw the inside curve or the outside curve once you've established for your handrail wreath and wherever you want to, control the movement. But it's really good for logs. So as you can see now, if I do this, I can draw a line like that. That's going to be the thickness of my board, and I think I've set it to about up to about 2.5 inches. So I'll go make a line there, and then I'll come down the side here and go all the way along like this, and all the way along. I'll turn the board up an end, and then what I do, once I've got a perfect line all the way around that's 2.5 inches, I get a V wood carving chisel that's the shape of a V, and I cut a groove just on this side of the pencil line. And then when I'm using my 2-man Diston saw, I like a Champion cut saw, which is actually a cross cut saw, but I do ripping with it for whatever reason. It just works out really well for me. And then my saw blade goes in that groove of the V tool, the chisel. So I just wanted to show you how you use a couple of levels, or 3 levels in this case, to flatten out a board. So I'll just double check, but should be not too bad. I mean, it's out by about 3 millimeters this end, and it's got a few high points this end. Yeah, there's high points either end, but it's getting a lot flatter. So it'll take me probably another 10 minutes of sort of trial and error to take off the high points. And so long as my winding sticks are not like this, but they're like that when you sight from front to back, and you also check it in the middle, or different stages. You can do it thirds or half, or 75%, and at the ends. Then you'll have a perfectly flat board, and you haven't put it on a planer. You've just done it by eye and by hand. So that's what I do before. There's another board sitting under here that I've cut. See if I can lift it and show you. It's quite heavy. This one. This one. Here's the board that it came off. And here's the board I cut. So this board here is all been cut by hand. So this one, as you can see, it's about 2.5 inches thick, and it's perfectly straight. And this was the surface that I machined perfectly flat to begin with, and then I used the grasshopper gauge on the sides, and then I milled it and ripped it by hand. And it's about just under 6 foot tall, because I'm just under 6 foot tall, so it's just probably about 5 foot 10 inches long. It's about 14 or 15 inches wide, and it's from a pear tree, and it's got this lovely pink, different color and whatever. Now the only problem here is you can see there's a split in the top right up about here. Don't know if you can see that split. It's just a fine split, and that's because when I was working with it, I did it over quite a few days, and it's been milled from a green log, so it's got a tiny split. This one doesn't have a split yet, It's got the beginning of what could be a split. But what I'm going to do as an experiment, because I used to experiment with slowing the process of the log curing, I used to put small pieces in a plastic bag and spray a little bit of 10 or 20 or 30 or 40% bleach in the water. So what I'm going to do on this case, because it's a really, really hot day, this is in England, and England at the moment has been getting up to 33 degrees. What I'm going to do on this surface now, right here, is I'm going to get some wood shavings and I'm going to sprinkle them all over, and I'm going to spray it with 20% or 50% bleach solution, so I'll keep it wet, and then I'll put plastic bags over the top so it doesn't dry out. And if I'm sawing or working on it every day or every other day, it's not going to bow and split. Because the problem is that while you've got this big surface here, all the tension is trying to, when it's trying to dry, this outside is trying to squeeze this way, and this here has got nowhere to go, so it wants to expand, and it's going to expand on a curvature, so it's going to be curved ever so slightly. And the good thing about sawing it into planks is when you've sawn along that line there, you've released some of the structural tension from this piece holding it together. So in the short term, you don't want it to dry too fast because you're still working on it. So if you worked on it really, really slowly, and on a really, really hot day like this with the sun blaring in, you can see the sunshine here now. It's going to come in really, really hot in this afternoon. When this surface gets really, really warmed up, it's going to crack all the way down. Crack all the way down. This cracked a tiny bit, so I'm going to slow that cracking with sawdust and a solution of bleach with some water and plastic bags, and then I'm going to put an old rug and some other sort of covers over it, and trying to keep it as moist and damp and dark as possible. This log here was lying against the barn on the far side, and when they lifted it up, it was damp underneath, and there were some little wood slaters. But because it was on the concrete, and the concrete stays quite cool, there was a lot of moisture on the concrete. So I was lucky, so it retarded the curing process. But now it's up on this sawhorse here. It's going to, and the sun comes in here, it's going to dry very quickly, and it's going to split very quickly. So I've got to retard that process by slowing it down, by keeping it moist. But to prevent black mold from forming, I've got to use a solution of bleach to stop that mold forming while I'm trying to slow down the process. Once I've sawn it up into planks like this, I can put it in my barn over there, and I can just let it dry in its own time. And I'll take the bark off so little critters don't try and drill their way into and start eating this. And I'll probably put some timber preservative on it to keep the bugs away and just stop it from going off or getting eaten. So that's just a quick lesson on how to turn wood into planks by hand. I don't run a group anymore because I gave it over to someone else to run it, but I used to run a group called Pit Sawing and Sawing by Hand, and I still contribute. Just one of my hobbies. I like to develop strength and exercise. I use this to exercise during COVID-19 lockdown in New Zealand. I'm now in Buckinghamshire, and it's a hot day. I'm just in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, and I'm barefoot, standing on the concrete, and having a bit of fun with a really lovely log of plum tree. And plum tree, if you can get it straight as this, and in such perfect condition, it's a crime not to turn it into boards and do some wood carving or furniture making project with it, because it's really, really beautiful. I do have something in mind for it, either furniture. I might also do some wood carving as well. So I'll leave you there and hope you enjoyed that.